Hello, hello, hello. This is Adelai Brown, your heart coach, and I want to welcome you to another segment of Heart Talk. Heart Talk is our weekly empowerment session where men and women from all over the country come together so that we can heal our hearts and transform our lives. I'm really thankful for this time together. I'm thankful for this space for us to be in. So just giving others a little minute to get in, and we're giving others a little minute to get in so that we can get started. I hope that you guys have been having a wonderful day. I hope that this day has been treating you very well. Um, so that is interesting. Let's see here. Okay, now let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, just trying to get some things together. Just trying to get some things together. Very interesting. Okay, maybe this might be it. Gallery. All right. Now let's see. Let's see how this looks. The pen, participants. Okay. Well, this is what we're going to do. So, I want to welcome you all to Heart Talk. Heart Talk is our weekly empowerment session where men and women from all over the globe come together so that we can do heart work. What is heart work? Um, Heart work is when we confront matters of the heart so that we can live authentically on purpose. I've been doing heart talks since September the 1st of 2014. And it's been very powerful to watch the change and transformation that's not just taking place in my life, but in the lives of so many others that we have come into contact with as a result of doing Heart Talk. And I share that because, excuse, I share that because I believe that adults need a village too, right? I truly believe that adults need a space that they can come together and they can just heal their hearts and transform their lives. They need a space where they can just be authentic and just be real. We like to talk about how children need a village, but the hard work that we do, it requires support, it requires community, it requires us to be in a space where we want to um, honor one another and we want to um, serve one another. And because of that, um, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. So we just celebrated 11 years of Heart Talk. We started out on a conference call every Monday night at 9:15, and that was back in September 1st of 2014. And now here we are. We are still doing our conference call. We are still healing and confronting matters of the heart so that we can authentically live on purpose and transform our lives and the lives of everyone that we come into contact with. And I just wanted to just talk a little bit about just the what's required to actually stick with something, right? I did not know what I was getting into when I started doing Heart Talk. I just knew that God was calling me to do something. I knew that He was calling me out of my comfort zone, and I knew that I could not do it. Like the pressure that I felt, it literally made me feel like I wasn't going to be able to sleep that night if I did not do the hard work. I feel like I was not going to be able to sleep that night if I did not get some people on the phone and get them on that call so that we can get on there and start doing that healing work together. What I think is so profound about that, excuse me for a second. What I think is so profound about that is that I did not feel ready. I did not feel prepared. And I wanted to take the time and highlight that today because I feel like many times we are waiting to have enough money. We are waiting to have enough followers on social media. We're waiting to have enough people tell us yes or validate this idea or this decision that we want to make. And I just want to encourage you that there's never going to be a right time. It's never going to be a perfect scenario or perfect situation, but it is still the time for you to step out and do what you need to do. There is always going to be a pro, just like there's always going to be a con. Sometimes your pros outweigh your cons, and sometimes your cons outweigh your pros, but you still need to move forward in what it is that God is calling you to do. There's a scripture that talks about how we must cast down every high imagination that sets itself against the knowledge of Christ. But then it also talks about how we must tear down um worldly logic and ambition, right? And I think that a lot of times we talk ourselves out of being obedient to God. I think we talk ourselves out of doing what thus saith the Lord because we are so concerned about what other people might have to say, right? We are so concerned about what other people might be thinking of us. And because of that, we slink, we shrink. We really set ourselves back when it's time to push ourselves forward. And I did hard talk for years and I was angry with God and I was frustrated because I felt like my life was so hard, right? I was angry and frustrated with God because I felt like he forgot about me. He was not listening. I could not understand why would God ask me to do something like heart talk? Why would he have me out here talking about my business, being vulnerable, being transparent, being authentic, studying the word, wrestling with it, trying to do better? Like, why did I have to do that? Why did I have to be a bigger person? I couldn't understand what he was preparing me for at that time. And I just want to encourage you. Yesterday, my son and I were walking on the park, and there was this one little boy, one young man out there. He looked like he might have been about 14 years old, 13, 14, 15, something like that. And he was out there playing basketball, and he was playing by himself, and he was practicing and, acting like, really practicing as if he had someone that was playing really tight defense on him. And I told Christopher, I said, that's really good that he's doing that. I said, because all of the kids that he's going to be playing basketball against that are not out here playing basketball and practicing, he's going to be ahead of them because he's putting in this work now, right? And I was just saying how when you practice to stay ready, you don't ever have to get ready, right? I've heard people say if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And that's the beauty and the value in practicing. That's the beauty and the value in doing the work that God has called us to do. And so Chris was like, well, I said, and there might be kids who playing video games and they are not practicing and they are there and he's going to zoom past them on the court. And Chris was like, yeah, well, that's true. And if he's playing video games, they might be better than him. I told him that may or may not be true, but when you decide that you're going to commit focused time and effort into a circumstance or a situation, you're going to get out what you're putting in. That's just the name of the game. That's just the rules to the game. When you are consistent in whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to open up doors. You're going to shift things in your life. You're going to shift things in the lives of others because you are moving forward in consistency. And that's what Heart Talk did for me. I didn't know I was a public speaker, a transformational speaker. I didn't realize that I had, multiple books in me. I didn't realize I was the coach and advocate and community outreach person that I am and I have grown to be. I did not realize this before I started doing Heart Talk, but it wasn't until I got into Heart Talk that I realized, wow, God has given me these things. He's called me to these things. I love business. I love all things business. I love learning about business. I love helping people strategize with their businesses. I realize that I'm really good at that. But all of that really started coming about when I started allowing God to use me and start to think about what can we do with Heart Talk? How can we take Heart Talk to the next level? How can we move the needle on Heart Talk? And herein lies, us being here. For a couple years, I was doing Heart Talk under the title of Heart Support. Right. And I was calling it a life support group and community. And that's exactly what it was. But that was my attempt to try to rebrand, to try to get people more involved. And then I realized this is not so much about getting people so involved. It is about having these conversations, putting it out there. Of course, I want us to be involved. I want us to be connected. I want us to be communicating. And I understand that this work that we're doing, it takes a lifetime. I remember when I would go to my therapist, my first um real therapist that I was really locked into, God bless her soul. And I remember I would go sometimes 3 and 4 months between our sessions. And I told her, I said, it takes me about that amount of time to really implement what we're talking about in these sessions because every session I had was transformational. Every session I had, she was giving me something to work on, something to focus on, something to strengthen as far as the relationships in my life with myself, with God, my husband, my children, and business. She was really pushing me and encouraging me to push myself and be that boss in business that she knows that I am. And it got me thinking about how sometimes we despise small beginnings, right? You don't understand that it's like you go to school. It's like even with college, right? Let's say you go to school and get this college education, you get this degree, and most people get that degree, and that's what they use for the rest of their life. It's like you obtain this information, and then you spend the rest of your life digesting that information and applying it to other areas of your life and then digesting that and learning how to integrate that into your life, integrate that into your dreams and your goals and your aspirations. And so when we think about Heart Talk is a space for us to keep it real. And I've just wanted to give up so many times, right? I tried to like count myself out, right? Like just being in business. And I talk to people all the time. It's like you zero in on that one thing that you're not good at. And for some reason, you believe that one thing has completely discredited you from being successful. This one thing has completely just wiped you out from the growth and the benefits that God has for you, and that's a lie. I was listening to a teaching the other day, and the guy said something that I thought was so profound. He just was like, if you think too highly of yourself and you never have any type of self-consciousness, that might be a sign of some other personality issue that you have. But he was saying most healthy people struggle with some form of not necessarily imposter syndrome, but a lot of people struggle with grappling with their success, because you've accomplished certain things, but many times you've accomplished these things, but there are so many other things that you want to do, you want to accomplish. There are so many things there are so many nuances within the actions that you've taken and the outcomes that you've gotten, that other people might be impressed with, but you know where you could have been better, and you know where you could have done more, and you know what you could have improved. But it's something to be said about someone that actually starts something and finishes it. It's something to be said about someone that does what they say they're going to do. And I just want to encourage you to be that person, right? I want to encourage you to be that person that's going to stick with it. And I can tell you, being in business for over 11 years now, there have been some very inconsistent seasons in my life. I have been inconsistent in my business activities. I have been inconsistent in networking. I have been inconsistent in creation. I have been inconsistent in showing up. I have. And I have also found myself being consistent in a way that is still causing me to show up right now. And I can say this day, 11 years in, my consistency has pushed me further than my inconsistency. And I can see where each one is playing a toll in my life and has a factor in how I'm showing up. And I'm so thankful to be able to look back over my life and be able to see that. When I teach my business students in the business academy, and they come and they have these ideas, or some people have started their businesses and maybe stop because of different life situations that have happened. Maybe they need to go back to work. Maybe someone got sick and they need to become a caretaker, so they had to put the business on hold, or there was some change that took place in their life that impacted their business. And it's always, when I hear it, I'm thinking, okay, well, let's navigate that so you can get back to what you need to do. And I'm always amazed at the roadblocks that we place in front of ourselves when it's time for us to do what we need to do, right? It's like I call it, we move the finish line, right? So if you sign up for a race and they say the race is a quarter mile and you've practiced for a quarter mile, let's say they say the race is an eighth of a mile, and you've practiced for this eighth of a mile, which is a half of a quarter mile, and you've done your conditioning for this eighth of a mile, and now you get ready to run this race, and now when it's time for you to run this race, you find out it's a quarter mile and not an eighth of a mile. They doubled the length. They moved the finish line back. They made it longer for you to run. They made it harder for you to do. And a lot of times they are you. You're the one making things harder on yourself. You're the one moving the finish line. You said if you got it done by 8 o'clock, that would be good enough. But not only did you get it done by 8 o'clock, you also added another stipulation on the top because you thought about it at the end. Stop doing that. Stop moving the finish line on yourself. Work on when you set a goal and you have a step you want to reach. And when you reach that step, reward yourself for that. A lot of times we can't grow and we can't get better because we can't celebrate the small wins. The Bible tells us don't despise the day of small beginnings. It's the little foxes that can spoil the vine. So little things matter. I always think about a brick home or a brick building. I don't care how big this thing is. This brick is getting laid brick by brick, one by one, brick by brick. Even if it's more than one person laying the brick, they are laying brick, brick by brick, by brick by brick, stone by stone, by stone by stone. And that's how we must look at our lives. I feel like moving the finish line is when you put an expectation on yourself to lay 20 bricks at a time, perfectly, set perfectly. And you just expect that every single time. And then when you don't reach it, which is impossible, then you beat yourself up and you tell yourself you're not good enough. You're not good at laying bricks. You're not good at this business. You're not good at being a wife or a husband. You're not good at being a son. You're not good at being a business owner. And then we justify quitting. We justify being mediocre because we're afraid of pushing ahead. But really, what it is you're afraid of being consistent. You're running from the discipline. You don't want to do brick by brick, day by day, call by call, line by line, paragraph by paragraph. No, you want to get the whole book done in 24 hours. You want instant gratification. And the truth of the matter is, life does not work like that. It doesn't work like that. Instant gratification, you can get it, but it's typically going to be something that you don't like, you don't want. It's not something that you're really aspiring to have. So I really want to encourage you. I really want to enlighten you. I really want to uplift and just let you know that you don't have to stay where you are. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to continue to go through this monotonous, mundane cycle every day doing the same thing. You don't have to have those types of relationships. You don't have to work that job or do that position. You don't have to do any of those things. You are the captain of your ship. Which direction are you going to steer it? And I had some thoughts about some other things that I wanted to talk about, but my heart won't let up. I remember my grandma used to say, I used to be so frustrated about different things going on in life and different things going on in the world. And I would just be like, I don't understand why my mother does all these dumb things. And I don't know why my daddy's so dumb. And because I used to be mad at them, right? I'd be like, my daddy ain't no good. And my daddy don't love me. And my mama don't love me. My mama love her man more than she loved me. That's how I used to feel. And I remember talking to my grandma. And my grandma used to tell me, just keep on living, baby. Just keep on living. I can promise you, if you just keep on living, you will be surprised at how things work out for you, for your mom. You will be surprised. I never thought I would have the love that I have for my father and the love that I have for my mother and the compassion and the camaraderie. I did not think that that was possible for us because we had been so toxic for so much of my life. Like you listening to me right now, and I feel like maybe you have adapted and adjusted to a level of dysfunction that was never yours to carry or embrace. And some of the challenges that you're currently going through in your life right now is not so much that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that God hears your prayers and He's trying to break you out of that routine. But right now, that breaking is uncomfortable. That breaking feels like something is cutting you, and it is. It's cutting through the scar tissue. It's cutting through all of the bull crap and all of the minutia, just all of the things that have been holding you back from living the life. Like the Psalm 139 tells us that we were knit in our mother's womb. I'm going to read it to you. You were so special to God that when your mom's egg and your dad's sperm came together to make you, it was amazing. It was a sight to behold, right? It says, I'm going to just read the whole thing because it's so good. And I want you to soak this up, right? This is Psalm 139. It says a Psalm of David, and it says, the Lord, O Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. You know when I sit up when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it, Lord. You go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the grave, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me, and your strength will support me. I could ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night, but even in darkness I cannot hide from you. To you the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are the same to you. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. You hear that? Psalm 139:13. Let me read that again. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the darkness of the womb. He watched us as He wove us together in the darkness of our mother's womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God? They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up, you are still with me. O God, only if you would destroy the wicked. Get out of my life, you murderers. They blaspheme you, your enemies misuse your name. O Lord, shouldn't I hate those who hate you? Shouldn't I despise those who oppose you? Yes, I hate them with total hatred. For your enemies are my enemies. And this is it, y'all. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. Know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. What am I saying? The Lord knew you. And one of the reasons we do heart talk is so that we can love on each other and really pray for one another, that we will get to know ourselves the way the Lord knew us. Jesus died for this person that the Lord knit, that He saw in the preciousness and darkness of our mother's wombs. Jesus died for you, for me, so that we could live. So that's why I'm going to read this to you. This is why we have to be careful, and we really have to watch over and monitor our thoughts, because Second Corinthians chapter 10, starting at verse 3. I want you to focus on this, and I'm going to read it in another version, but this is the New Living Translation. It says, "We are human, but we don't wage war as humans do. We use God's mighty weapons, not worldly weapons, to knock down the strongholds of human reasoning and to destroy false arguments. We destroy every proud obstacle that keeps people from knowing God. We capture their rebellious thoughts and teach them to obey Christ. We use God's mighty weapons, not worldly weapons, to knock down the strongholds of human reasoning and destroy false arguments." So that means that there are arguments out there that are false that people are making, and there are strongholds of human reasoning that are strongholds and weapons that are fighting against us. So there is reasoning, there is thoughts, there are thoughts. There's a logic that is playing in your head that needs to be destroyed, eradicated. You need a shift. You don't need to think like that anymore, because that thinking goes against the knowledge that Christ has of you, the words that He spoke about you. That understanding, that logic, that reasoning is demonic. And unfortunately, that reasoning is so prevalent in our schools, in our workplaces, even in our churches. And we have to be willing to take a stand and say, I'm not going to think like that. I'm not going to be like that. I choose to be happy. I choose joy. I choose peace. I choose productivity. I choose to see life a certain way. I choose gratitude. It's all a choice. And that's number 5 in our 6-step process because it's all a choice. And I actually want to go through that before I close out today because I actually was not going to do this, but I'm going to just go ahead and run through this really quick because I truly believe that this work that we do is necessary. If you have not already, I encourage you to get your copy of my book, Help Save Me from My Broken Heart, Your Journey to Living and Loving Again. I encourage you to get a copy of that book. If there is any of the conversations that we are having here with Heart Talk that um any of the conversations that we are having here with Heart Talk, do this again. I encourage you to get a copy of that book because I wrote it, and for a long time I did not do a good job of really telling people about it. But this book really is one of the biggest changing factors in me and my mom's relationship. And I've talked to countless other people who have found love, have had the courage to, get married, fall in love again. Some people have had the courage to walk away from toxic marriages and relationships, people who have found restoration and healing in their relationships with themselves and their parents, all because of this book. And in the book, I highlight the 6-step process that I use to transform my life and have helped countless other clients and individuals do the same. So I want to go through these steps with you, and you could see here that I'm, sharing with you this information or whatever. And I just really want to go through these 6 steps and then we'll get ready to go. So I was talking about how you have to be willing to change your mind. You have to be willing to change the way you're thinking. If you want to live the life that God created you to live, right? It's not that, well, if God wanted for me, he'll give it to me. No, that's not the case. You have to be willing to humble yourself to get the help you need. You heard me talk about therapy. I've done therapy. I do therapy. I do coaching. I have support groups, family, and friends that I'm really close with. I call it my life's board of directors. I do journaling. I do meditation. I exercise. I do soaking. Like there is a lot of work that goes into maintaining great mental, emotional, spiritual health, and I'm still working at it. Right. You have to go to the doctor, you have to get your blood work done, you have to get yourself checked out, you might have to move, you might have to get new employment, might have to relocate, you might have to cut some people off. But in all of these things, these 6 steps, in every circumstance I've had in my life, every client I've worked with, every time I've gone through anything, this divine heart transplant process, because in Ezekiel 36 and 26, the Lord says, and I will put a new spirit in you, and I will replace your heart of stone with a heart of flesh, and I will put a new spirit within you. And that's what I feel like is constantly being renewed every day. Our hearts and our minds, when the Bible says that we wake up every morning to new grace and mercy, and our minds are being renewed daily. That's what this is about. So this 6-step process has really helped to transform my life, hundreds of others, and I pray that it helps you. So the first step, number 1, is connection. And you see the praying hands because I'm really deep in my faith. Jesus saved me. And that's real. There's no lying, how they say, no capping in that. Jesus saved me, and I know he can save you. So I just encourage you, wherever you are, whatever you have going on in your life, get connected. Get clear about who and what your faith is rooted in. Make a notable link to your creator. How will you know where you are going and who you are if you don't know your purpose? It's just like this. When you buy a new anything, phone, a refrigerator, a toaster, it comes with some type of instructions, some type of explanation on how to use this thing, some type of manual. All of us are God's creations, and He gave us His Word, the Bible, as a manual to us, to learn about us, to experience Him through our lived experiences, right? So before you do anything in your life, you need to be connected. That's why so many of you feel so out of place and out of order, because you are not grounded in your faith. You're not devoting enough time to your relationship with Christ or whoever the God of your understanding is. But I'm telling you, Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the light. No one comes to the Father except by him. So I encourage you to establish that link and get connected, because that is the foundation of making any type of healthy, whole, transformational change in your life. All right. So once you get connected, now it's time for awareness. It's just like a connection with the charger. When you connect your phone to a charger, when you connect the plug of a lamp to the socket in the wall, when you make that connection, the light comes on. When you get connected, it brings about a level of awareness. I remember when I first started reading my Bible, I hated my mom. I hated my dad. I hated my daughter's father. I held grudges. I was a very angry person. And I remember I started reading my Bible, and from reading my Bible, awareness started to come about. The light started to come on. I started to realize what I was doing. I started to realize my actions. We often exist in unfavorable situations because we lack the knowledge of what's causing these issues and these situations in our lives. So, with awareness, it allows us to do introspection. You start to see yourself, you start to see those that are closest to you, and you start to be able to uncover, unmask, unfasten, unravel the complexities of the conflicts that are in your life, right? It's all about paying attention. It's about getting still, right? It's about looking at what you have accepted as normal and realizing that maybe it isn't, and maybe it's something else that you can do in this process, right? Okay. So that's awareness. Do some introspection, because when you start to develop a relationship with Christ, it brings that about in your life. Okay, so we get connected, we have awareness, and now from there we start to develop an acceptance, an acknowledgement for the part that we're playing. This is where we begin to tell ourselves the truth. You cannot expect to thrive and succeed by being fake or being in denial. Acknowledge the truth about yourself and your situations. You can't conquer what you refuse to confront. Acceptance is all about you. You were aware of your spending habits, and now you have to accept the fact that you have to make some changes in your finances. You have to make some changes in how you go about getting the things that you want. You have to make some changes in how you go about feeding your insecurities, right? You have to make some adjustments when you look at what you're doing every day and why you're doing it. And it's uncomfortable. That's why we have Heart Talk. That's why we have the Heart Tribe. That's why we're here supporting one another. That's why I've been doing this for 11 years, because it is hard to grow and change, even in a group setting, even with support, much less by yourself. It's so easy to point the finger and blame everybody else, but it's a whole nother ball game when you start to realize the part that you are playing in your own demise, in your own circumstance, in situations you don't like, and a big part of it is your fault. All right, so we have now acceptance, and now we go to forgiveness. Free yourself. In order to heal, you must first release the pain of what was. Forgiveness allows the forgiver to grow and thrive in areas that cause pain. Forgive yourself, forgive others. Do it quickly, do it consistently, do it wholeheartedly. Lay before the Lord. You hear people say that. I mean, pray. I mean, fast. I mean, journal. Talk to your therapist about it. You need to forgive. Forgiveness determines whether we go into heaven or hell. Yes, I believe in it. And one thing I have learned is Jesus died so that we could be forgiven of our sins. Forgiveness is a big deal. I am not perfect. I have committed sin. So the one who committed no sin died so that I could be forgiven for things that he did not make me do. And but he died for those things, and I won't forgive somebody that hurt me or let me down. Make it make sense. Forgiveness, a lack of unforgiveness is like you drinking poison expecting somebody else to die from it. You have to learn to forgive. Forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is so that you can sleep at night. It is not saying that you are okay with what they did with you. You are not condoning what they did to you. You are not even condoning what you did to yourself. You are not even condoning what you did to someone else that you might be struggling with forgiving yourself, because forgiveness goes both ways. You have to forgive others. You also have to forgive yourself because you were forgiven. And it takes work. You will know when you have forgiven someone when you are not reacting to them. When you can hear their name and you don't get upset and you don't get worked up and your mood doesn't change when people talk about them or they come around. If your body is not viscerally reacting to this person, those are some signs that forgiveness has taken place. When the situation is talked about and you can give yourself grace, you don't feel shame or condemnation. You actually feel compassion for yourself. That's how you know you've forgiven. Those are some signs you've forgiven yourself. There are others, but I'm just giving you some examples right now. Okay? All right. So connection, awareness, acceptance, forgiveness, the first four steps in our divine heart transplant. This is how we do our heart equity work. All of the work that we do is within these steps: business, personal, professional, executive, all of the work that we do, real estate, it all falls within these steps, believe it or not. Step five. Five is the number of grace. Step five is make a decision. I remember when I was in a really toxic, abusive relationship, and I was in that relationship for a long time. And I remember I was thinking about what were the steps that I took when I was really coming up and working on this six-step process. What were the steps that I took to see change in that abusive relationship? Because a lot of times people stay in abusive relationships for years and years and years. And though I was in that one for 7 years, I know some people stay way longer than that. And it was abusive on both sides, right? We were both abusive towards one another, and it just wasn't a good situation. And I remember I would connect, I would pray, I would realize my issues, I would accept that I need to do better, and he needs to do better. I would do all of those things. I would forgive, or kind of, sort of, but then I would go back in the same cycle over and over again: connection, awareness, acceptance, forgiveness. Connection, awareness, acceptance, forgiveness. Because there's always something he did, and we went back to the forgiveness piece and back to connection, because I got to forgive him and I got to pray because I'm so angry and upset about it. I need God to help give me some peace. And it just was a thing. And the awareness of this is who he is. I keep making this decision to be with him. I need to look at that and just accepting why I might be doing that, not feeling love, the abandonment and rejection I felt from just growing up in life, and how I was afraid of facing that again. And what broke that toxic cycle of those first four steps was when I was about 20 years old, going into 21, and I made a decision. And I don't think it's a coincidence that decision is step five. And I didn't necessarily plan it like that, but it worked out like that. And five is the number of grace. Because a lot of times we are afraid to make a decision because we're afraid of making a mistake. And I believe that decision is my fifth step, because God is saying when you make decisions in grace. You have the grace of God over you in your decisions. You have a choice. You have to want to live different. Healing and transformation is achieved when one decides to live a life without limitations. Your decisions determine your life experiences. So when I made a decision, the Lord gave me grace. I didn't know what was going to come on the other side of that decision, but I knew I had to choose me. I had to choose Christ. I had to choose my daughter. And in doing that, I could not choose that relationship anymore because it was toxic for both of us. And I had to make a decision that I would break out of that cycle. But it forced me to start to see how much I associated myself with being toxic, how much I associated myself with dysfunction. And so making that decision, it forced me to have to go back through the steps all over again: connection, awareness, acceptance, forgiveness, because that decision opened me up to an area of my life that was formerly shut off because I refused to look at it. But now that I'm doing it, see, anytime you choose to do something new, it's going to be uncomfortable because you are doing something outside of your norm. It's off the beaten path. I'm from the country. If you ever walk through a path, it's so much easier to walk through a path than it is to just walk through the bush or walk through the woods, because the path is established. You can see things better. You less likely to get hurt. It's usually a shorter route. But when you're the one creating the path, it's not that easy. So people have, that's why you hear the term being a trailblazer, because blazing a trail is difficult, especially when you're the first one to do it. And that's what making a decision is all about. Being You're saying, I'm going to blaze this trail ahead of me. I'm going to make room for myself and those to follow, even if there's no room right now. And the last step, step 6, take action. 6 is the number of man, meaning it takes man to take action. All the rest of those things are spiritual. What is it? Ethereal. They're up in your head. It's not until you take action does any of this stuff really come to life. It's time to do the work. Work the steps. Connect to your source. Use that connection to explore who you were created to be. Acknowledge that. Forgive that, and make a decision that you're going to keep taking the steps that you need to take to live the life that you were formed in your mother's womb that you were formed there to be, to live and to play out. And we're going to be here supporting you along the way. Every step of the way, we're going to be here supporting you along the way, because I need it. I needed this today. I needed this reminder. I'm working my own steps. I'm practicing what I'm preaching to y'all. That's why I said this is a community support. So as we get ready to close, this is what I want to do. Let's do a little heart check. Let's do a little heart check. And we're going to start doing this before we close out Heart Talk. And I want to hear from you. You can leave it in the comments. You could put it in here live, or we'll go back and look at it later. But I want to hear from you. As we were talking, what came up for you? When we talked about connection, awareness, acceptance, forgiveness, decision, taking action, as I talked about 11 years of Heart Talk, what were some of the challenges that came up for you? What is something you thought about doing or you've been wanting to do that you still haven't accomplished, and that thing just came up loud and clear? I want you to write it down. And what is something else that maybe you have done and you have completed, and maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit for it? Like I wasn't giving myself enough credit for sticking with Hard Talk for 11 years. Like I lost my mama. My mama was with me when I started, but I'm still doing it, and a lot of it in honor of her. So as we talk through tonight's Heart Talk session, what was in this heart check? What was something that came up for you that you're like, oh, I got to work on this? And with that same burst of energy, I want you to think about what came up that you realized you're doing better than you thought you were. You actually did get something done that you don't remember doing. You actually did write out another chapter in your book. You did make that phone call to find out about pursuing your career or doing something new or doing something creative. You did do those things, but you just didn't take the time to notate it, to celebrate yourself. So I want you to do that. I want you to work on that this week. And remember, let us know how this is blessing you in the comments. Share with us. You can find me on Instagram at Heart Coach Talk. You can find me on TikTok at Heart Coach Talk 1. And you can connect with me on Facebook at The Heart Connections, Adelai Brown. You can find us here, right here on YouTube at Heart Coach Talk. Check out our podcast on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. The Heartline with Adelai Brown. This season has been fire. We've had an accountant. We've had integrative medicine doctors on. We've had our community mentor come on, and we talk about the dynamic between mothers and sons. We've had a mental health professional come on. We have some more amazing guests to come on to have some great conversation. So I want to have you there. I would love and appreciate your support in liking and commenting and sharing and following wherever you find our information. We thank you for it. We welcome it. Every Wednesday morning, we're on prayer at 5 a.m. And if you want to find out more about any of this information, you can go to the website adelaibrown.com. Adelai Brown.com. So I thank you all for being here. Remember to do your heart check and just know that you are loved. I truly believe when we heal our heart, we transform our lives and we transform the world around us. And you won't change my mind about that. So let's continue to heal. Let's continue to grow. Let's continue to support one another because God is moving, y'all. Don't be afraid. Don't get distracted by what you see. He promised he would never leave us nor forsake us. He said in the end times, it will be the best of times and worst of times all at the same time. I'm expecting God to open doors. By this time tomorrow, when I get on next week, we're going to have a testimony. We're going to testify. God going to do something big. I can just feel it. And I'm going to tell y'all about it next week. Something real big I've been believing him for. I'm going to tell y'all about it next week. So I thank God for you. God bless you. I love you. Remember, this is Adelai Brown, your heart coach, signing out.